The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of breath, of warmth, of things unsaid. The dim light spilled across their tangled forms, casting soft shadows against the sheets. Nathan lay beside her now, arm draped loosely over her waist, his fingers tracing idle patterns against her skin, as though memorizing her all over again. Amara's eyes were half closed, chest rising and falling in a rhythm that no longer belonged to just her. The walls she'd so carefully rebuilt, brick by bitter brick, had cracked under the weight of him, of this. "You okay?" His voice was low, almost hesitant. Not because he didn't know the answer, but because he cared to ask. Amara didn't respond right away. She blinked slowly, staring at the ceiling, as if the truth might be written there. Then she turned, letting her gaze settle on him. "I don't know," she whispered. Nathan's jaw tensed. "Tell me what you need. I'll do it. I swear this doesn't fix everything," she said, gently cutting him off. "What we just did. It doesn't undo the lies, the silence, or what it cost me." "I know," he said quietly, but she continued, eyes softer now, for the first time in a long time. "It didn't hurt to want something, to want someone." Nathan exhaled, a sound almost like relief, almost like grief. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, then leaned in and kissed her forehead, not out of passion, but reverence. "Then let me be the man you don't have to guard yourself from." A pause. "Let me start again, with no secrets, no power plays. It's just us." Amara studied him, lips parted slightly, expression unreadable. Then, slowly, she reached out and rested her palm against his chest, right where his heartbeat thudded steady beneath her hand. "You have one chance, Nathan," she said, voice clear, quiet, unwavering. "One, don't waste it." "I won't," he promised, and in that silence that followed, neither of them moved to speak again. They didn't need to. The war between them had paused, not ended, but softened, and for this one night that was enough. The morning light filtered through sheer curtains, casting a muted gold across the room. Nathan stirred first. He blinked against the brightness, then turned his head to find Amara still asleep. Her hair tousled across the pillow, one hand curled loosely near her face. In sleep, she looked nothing like the woman who had spent months holding her spine. Straight through storms and everything like the woman he used to imagine she might be when she wasn't defending herself from him. Vulnerable, unarmored, real. His fingers twitched, aching to brush the strands from her cheek, but he didn't, not yet. He had crossed too many lines already. He would wait for her to choose. A moment later, as if sensing him, Amara's lashes fluttered. Her gaze found his. She didn't smile. She didn't look away either. "Morning," he said softly, uncertainly. She stared at him for a heartbeat longer before replying. "So it wasn't a dream?" "No," he murmured. "It wasn't." Amara sat up slowly, wrapping the sheet around herself. Her movements were graceful, but guarded, like she was pulling herself back together, piece by careful piece. Nathan leaned back on one elbow, watching her. "Are you regretting it?" She looked at him then sharply, fully. "No," she said, "but I'm remembering everything. It doesn't change." That stung more than he expected. But he nodded. "I didn't come here to fix it in one night," he said. "I came because I couldn't keep pretending like I didn't care." "That? I didn't hurt you. I didn't hate myself for what I became when I let you walk away." Amara looked down, fingers clenching the edge of the sheet. "You had your reasons. They were cowardice dressed as strategy," he said. "I'm done hiding behind that." Silence stretched again, not hostile, but heavy. Then she said, "I still don't know what I want from you." Nathan sat up slowly, his tone even then. "Let me start where I should have before. As someone who shows up, not with demands or excuses, just with truth." Her gaze flicked to him again. Not soft, not harsh, measuring. "And if I say I need time," she asked. "I wait," he said, without hesitation, "as long as it takes." Mara stood, crossing the room to where her robe hung over the chair. She slipped it on without looking back down at the doorway. She paused. "You should go," she said, voice unreadable. Nathan's heart thudded, but he rose anyway, pulling on his shirt in silence. As he passed her, he stopped just beside her, not touching but close enough that his words fell into the space between them. "I'll be wherever you need me, Amara, even if it's nowhere near you." She didn't reply, but as he stepped into the hallway and the door clicked shut behind him, Amara let out a slow breath and touched the spot on her chest, where his heartbeat had pressed into her the night before. Not forgiven, but no longer forgotten. Later that afternoon, the steam from her tea curled upward in soft spirals, fading before they reached the window pane. Amara sat curled on the corner of her couch, robe knotted tightly at her waist, hair damp from a long, scalding shower that had done nothing to wash away the echo of his touch. The sheets were stripped from her bed. She hadn't planned it that way, but waking to the scent of him had sent something sharp spiraling in her chest, so she'd thrown them into the washer like a woman possessed. Now her apartment was quiet again. Too quiet. She sipped her tea, bitter and strong. It's just how she liked it, just how she needed it. But even as the warmth slid down her throat, her mind betrayed her. It replayed the softness in Nathan's eyes, the tremble in his voice when he said, "Let me be the man you don't have to guard yourself from." Amara scoffed under her breath. Words, so many words, and yet not empty ones. That was the problem. He hadn't made promises laced with control or apologies built on excuses. He had just shown up, quiet, honest, broken in ways she recognized. Because she, too, had spent nights staring at ceilings, wondering if she'd ever feel whole again. She pressed her palm against her chest. The ache there wasn't new. It had been with her for months, but now it had a different shape. Less jagged, less angry, more ... UNCERTAIN. A knock at the door jolted her upright. Her heart thudded once. Then again she rose carefully, each. Step 2, the door measured. Not because she feared him, but because she feared herself. Feared what it meant to want again when she opened it. It wasn't Nathan, it was Dahlia. Her best friend stood in the hallway, arms folded, eyes sharp. "I figured I'd check on you," Dahlia said. "You didn't respond to my texts, and I had a feeling." "A feeling?" Amara asked, lips twitching into something that wasn't quite a smile. "That Nathan was back," Dahlia said flatly. "And judging by your robe and your hair and the fact that you're radiating post-emotional storm energy, I'd say I'm right." Amara stepped aside to let her in. Dahlia didn't wait. She dropped her bag on the chair and turned, pinning her with a look that was equal parts sisterly concern and hard-earned judgment. "So," Dahlia said, "did he apologize? Or did he do that thing where he stares into your soul and suddenly you forget he shattered you like a glass dropped from 10 stories up?" Amara exhaled, dropping onto the couch again. "He didn't make excuses." Dahlia blinked. "Well, color me shocked. He said he wants to try again. No power plays, no lies, and you believe him." Amara didn't answer. Not because she didn't have one, but because she wasn't sure it mattered. Belief didn't equal trust. "Not yet. I don't know what I want," Amara admitted. "But for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like I'm bleeding." Dahlia's expression softened. She came over, sitting beside her, resting her hand over Amara's. "That's something," she murmured. "But don't let the absence of pain confuse you for peace." "I won't," Amara said. "But I also won't run from something. Just because I'm scared it might break me again." Dahlia nodded slowly. "Then whatever you choose, I'll be here. Just say the word." And as the evening light bled slowly across the walls, Amara leaned back into the cushions, tea cooling in her hand. The silence no longer a burden, but a space waiting to be filled by her choice. Not his, not anyone's, just hers. Nathan's apartment. The city lights stretched out beneath him, a tapestry of motion and noise, of glowing windows and stories he'd never know, But none of it touched him. Nathan stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, shirt half-buttoned, the collar loose around his neck. A glass of untouched whiskey sat on the table beside him, sweating. In the heat of the room, he hadn't taken a sip. Cold. His mind was still in her apartment. In her eyes, in her silence. He hadn't meant for it to happen like that. The night unraveling between them like thread pulled too tight. But when Amara had whispered, "I want you," every wall inside him had collapsed. And now? Now he was left with the weight of after. Not regret. No, never regret. But reckoning. He scrubbed a hand down his face, the ghost of her fingers still. Etched across his shoulders, the echo of her voice lingering in the quiet. "You're not forgiven yet." He didn't expect to be. A soft knock pulled him from his thoughts. He turned, frowning. When he opened the door, he wasn't surprised to see Elias, his chief of staff, and the man who knew Nathan better than anyone. Still left in his inner circle, Elias didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped in, closing the door behind him. "You've been off-grid all day," he said, by way of greeting. "The board's getting twitchy." Nathan returned to the window. Let them twitch. Elias exhaled, crossing his arms. "You saw her, didn't you?" Nathan didn't answer, but silence from him was as good as confirmation. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "Nathan, I say this as your friend. You can't afford to be reckless right now." "It wasn't reckless," Nathan said. "It was necessary." Elias blinked. "Necessary?" Nathan turned, eyes dark, voice low. "I've built a life where everything is measured, controlled, negotiated. And none of it mattered when I saw her." He said simply, "None of it mattered." Elias didn't respond right away. He studied him the way only someone who had seen him at his worst could, and finally said, "You can't fix the past with longing. You want her back? You'll have to earn her, not seduce her." Nathan nodded once, jaw clenched. "I know. Do you?" Elias challenged. "Because she's not like the others. She's not waiting to be convinced. She's watching to see if you'll become the man she deserves." Nathan's voice was steady. "Then I'll become him." A long pause stretched between them. "Then?" Elias sighed and clapped a hand to his shoulder. "Then start by cleaning up the mess you left behind. The leak, the press, the board. You can't protect her from the storm if you're still part of it." Nathan gave a tight nod, gaze drifting back to the skyline. "She's more than a weakness," he murmured. "She's the reason I finally want to be better." Amara's office, early afternoon. The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly. But Amara barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on the email glowing on her screen. Subject urgent. "Your name is trending again from PR. DEPT." Her stomach twisted. She clicked the link. A flood of headlines stared back at her. Nathan Calloway spotted at ex-partner Amara Clark's apartment. Reconciliation or cover-up. Sources say emotional entanglements may compromise Calloway's foundation leadership. Who is Amara Clark? Really? Photos? Rumors? Speculation? And, beneath it all, the quiet erosion of privacy, of control, of peace. She leaned back in her chair, the chill of the leather pressing against her spine. Her phone buzzed on the desk. Another missed call from Dahlia, a third one today. She didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the image at the center of the article. A blurry snapshot from across the street. Nathan standing outside her door, looking up just once before disappearing inside. No context. No explanation. Just narrative. Weaponized. A soft knock tapped at her door. She blinked, dragging herself out of the spiral. "Come in." 'Twas Clara, her intern, young, sharp-eyed, and visibly nervous. "There's someone here to see you," she said softly. "He says it's personal." He wouldn't give a name. Amara frowned. Security didn't stop him. Clara hesitated. "I think they recognized him." Her stomach dropped. Amara stood slowly. "Tell them I'll meet him." Downstairs. Scene lobby of the nonprofit building. The second the elevator doors slid open, she saw him. Nathan stood near the far corner, away from the main seating area. Dark suit, hands in his coat pockets, tension humming off him like heat. She didn't rush to him, but she didn't run either. He turned at her approach, his expression unreadable, but his eyes. They searched her, not with hunger, but with apology. "Hi," he said, voice rough. "I wasn't sure you'd come down. Shouldn't have." She replied honestly, "But here I am." He nodded, accepting the blow. "I'm sorry about the press, about dragging your name back into the chaos. Do you think I care about gossip?" Her voice was quiet, measured. "I've dealt with worse than headlines. But you shouldn't have to. Not because of me." She folded her arms. "Then why are you here?" Nathan took a breath. "Because I needed to see you before this gets worse." She narrowed her eyes. "What's coming, Nathan?" He hesitated, just a beat too long. "That leak I told you about," he said finally, "it wasn't just about the foundation. Someone is trying to discredit me through you." Amara's jaw tightened. "Of course they are. They're digging into your past, into the year you disappeared after our breakup, into your old job, into—" He trailed off, gaze darkening. "Everything." Amara's voice dropped too. A whisper. "They think I'm the weakness." Nathan stepped closer, careful, cautious. "You're not. But they're counting on you believing that." Silence stretched between them. Then Amara's voice cut through it, low and clear. "Tell me the truth, Nathan. All of it. No more protecting me. No more shielding me from the storm. We're standing in it together. I want to know exactly how deep the water runs." He looked at her, really looked, and then slowly he nodded. "I'll tell you everything." Nathan's penthouse night. Rain tapped against the floor-to-ceiling windows, streaking down the glass like a slow bleed from the sky. Nathan stood by the bar, 2 untouched glasses of whiskey on the counter. Amara stood near the window, arms wrapped tightly around herself, her silhouette outlined in the city's glow. "You brought me here. Talk," she said, without looking at him. Nathan's throat worked. "It started months ago. Quietly. Anonymous tips. Discreet leaks. Nothing I couldn't manage at first. But then they dragged me in. Yes," his voice was pained, "because I cut someone off. Someone powerful. Someone who doesn't like being told no." Amara turned slowly to face him. "Who?" Nathan hesitated. "Then Governor Davis." Her breath caught. "The one from Yes. The one who introduced us to the Horizon Initiative. The one who helped push our expansion into Westbridge. He wanted a stake, silent, off the books. And when I refused, when I found out he'd been siphoning off grants, we severed ties. And now he's coming for you. For me." Nathan nodded. "He's using every thread he can pull. Campaign donors. Media allies. People I thought were friends." Amara's heart pounded. "And what about my past? How much does he know?" "Enough," Nathan said, voice low. "They know you were working under a different name, that you left your fellowship early. They've got partial medical records. They're painting a picture, one that makes you look unstable, like a liability." Amara's arms dropped too. Her sides, fists, clenched. "Because of what happened with my mother, I tried to stop them," Nathan said, moving closer. "I threw money at it. Lawyers' favors. But they don't want silence. They want blood. They want you to look like a crack in my armor. Then why bring me back into your orbit?" Her voice cracked. "Why show up? Why say you wanted to start again?" "Because I do," he said, stepping into her space. "And I couldn't let them rewrite your story. Not again. Not after everything." She looked up at him, her eyes shining. "You said you wanted to protect me." "I do, but you've lied to me, kept me in the dark." Nathan's voice dropped to a whisper. "'Cause I was scared, Amara. Not of Davis, not of losing my job. I was scared of losing you." Her breath hitched. "And you think this changes things?" she asked, voice barely audible. I don't. No, he said honestly. But if I go down, if this entire empire burns, I want you to know the fire started because I refused to sell you out. A long silence. Then Amara stepped forward just once, until she stood to two-toe with him. Then don't ask me to run. If you burn, I burn beside you. But next time, tell me before the match is lit. Nathan swallowed hard. Deal. She finally reached for one of the glasses and downed it in one slow, shaking sip. Then set it back down without flinching. What do we do next? She asked. Nathan's eyes met hers, resolute. We fight. Next morning, Amara's apartment. The coffee sat untouched on the counter. A kettle still hummed faintly. Forgotten. Nathan stood by the doorway, phone pressed to his ear. Shoulders coiled tight. Amara watched him from the kitchen, robe cinched tightly at her waist. She already knew from the way he wasn't speaking, from the tremor in his jaw, something had detonated. When he finally hung up, his voice was flat. It's out. Amara's stomach dropped. What is... He turned the phone screen to her. The headline was brutal, from maid to mistress. Nathan Hale's new flame exposed, a sanitized past and a psychiatric ward. Beneath it, an image grainy but her, from the shelter. From a time she thought, buried. Another line read, sources confirm Amara V once operated under a false identity. After a psychological breakdown and was quietly removed from a medical fellowship following a string of disciplinary flags. Her knees went weak. They published my records illegally, Nathan snapped. I'll burn the agency that leaked this. But the damage, it's begun. She barely heard him. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. Comment threads, blurred photos of her at Nathan's side. Speculation, theories. Some asking if she was a fit gold digger. Others accusing her of seducing Nathan for leverage. Her voice was hollow. They'll say I'm unstable, dangerous, that you can't trust someone like me. Nathan crossed the room. Then we don't let them speak for us. Her eyes met his, wild, scared, and filled with a flickering fire. How, Nathan? How do you fight a system designed to silence people like me? He took her hand. We go on record, together. We don't hide. You tell your story before they twist it further, and I stand beside you, not as your shield, as your witness. Amara searched his face. If I do this, there's no undoing it. I know. Shh. Drew in a long breath, spine straightening. Then I want to do it my way. Nathan nodded slowly. Tell me. Later that day, live broadcast interview, unannounced appearance. The host stammered, caught off guard as the doors opened mid-segment. Two figures walked in. Nathan Hale in a tailored charcoal suit, and beside him, Amara, head high. No makeup, no armor, just truth in her eyes. The cameras rolled. Murmurs rippled across the room. Nathan took the mic first. Before we go any further with today's scheduled programming, I have something to say. Then he turned to Amara. Actually, she does. Amara stepped forward. My name is Amara V. I am not a mistress. I am not a ghost from a broken past. I am a woman who rebuilt herself from the ashes of trauma, silence, and fear. Yes, I was institutionalized. I lost my mother to the system. I worked jobs beneath my qualifications. I changed my name to survive. A hush fell across the studio, but I refused to be shamed for choosing to live, for daring to love. 4. Standing here unbroken in the face of power that profits from silence. The host tried to interrupt. Mara raised a hand. I am not ashamed of my story. And no headline, no shadowy donor, no political smear campaign will ever convince me to erase the scars I earned learning to breathe again. She turned to Nathan, who looked at her like she'd just rewritten gravity. She faced the camera once more. Come for me if you must, but I won't run. And I won't apologize for surviving. Capitol Office, late evening. Governor Charles. Davis slammed the folder onto the table. Do you realize what you've just done? He hissed. Nathan sat across from him, calm to calm, as if the flames around him couldn't touch him anymore. "I told the truth," Nathan replied. "You should try it sometime." Charles's lip curled. "She humiliated us. Live. National television. There are donors pulling out. Campaign staff walking. You just handed the opposition our backbone on a platter." Nathan leaned forward, voice low and deliberate. "If your backbone can't survive a woman speaking her truth, maybe it wasn't a backbone to begin with." Charles stared at him, silent now, the weight of decades of quiet deals and paper-thin reputations cracking under the new order. "You knew she was being followed," Nathan said. "You knew the press would find something if they dug hard enough. You didn't just let it happen. You gave them a map." Silence. Then Charles exhaled, leaning back, fingers steepled. "She was going to destroy you, Nathan. You and everything you've built." "I was trying to protect you." "No," Nathan said. "You were protecting a version of me that never existed. The puppet, the sanitized air. That man's gone." Pause. Charles's voice was low now. "And what about the donors? The legacy? You've made enemies of men who do not forget." Nathan stood slowly. "Then let them remember my name." He turned and walked out. Seen Amara's apartment later that night? The television flickered with commentary. Analysts debated whether Amara was brave or unhinged. Some praised her. Others dissected her like a cautionary tale. She turned the volume down. There was a knock dot when she opened the door. She wasn't expecting her. Clarice Bishop, the campaign's former PR strategist and the one who had always treated Amara with brittle smiles and veiled contempt. Clarice didn't wait for an invitation. She stepped inside, glancing around like she might catch dust. "I assume you know why I'm here," Clarice said. Amara shut the door. "To apologize for being complicit in a smear campaign." Clarice laughed once, cold. "To offer you a deal." Amara crossed her arms. "The truth is," Clara said, pacing, "the public loves a survivor, especially a beautiful one with fire in her eyes. You've become marketable." Amara blinked. "I'm sorry, are you trying to rebrand me?" Clarice snapped. Clarice snapped. "With you, not against you." A long silence. Then Amara walked over, slow and deliberate, until they stood face to face. "I am not your campaign," she said. "I am not your story. I am not yours to spin." Clarice looked away, but her voice faltered now. "You could win this. People love redemption arcs. You give them something palatable. I'm not here to be palatable." Amara stepped back. "If they want a story, they'll get it. But it'll be mine, not yours." Clarice stared at her for a moment, unreadable, then turned and walked out. Women's Leadership Summit, Downtown Convention Center, 2 weeks later. Stage lights were warm, but not harsh. The auditorium buzzed, not with scandal, but anticipation. Notebooks out, cameras ready. The screen behind the podium flashed the panel title, "Truth as Power, Reclaiming Voice in the Public Arena." Moderator, poised. Panelists, respected journalists, activists, CEOs, and at the end of the semicircle, Amara. She wore a deep green suit. No labels, no stylists, just her. Her shoulders relaxed but spine straight, like a woman who'd earned the right to take up space. The moderator turned to her. "Skater, your name's been on every headline. Some call you reckless. Others say brave. But what do you call what happened?" Amara leaned into the mic, voice calm, even, "I call it survival." And for the first time, not in silence. Murmurs of approval. Pens scribbled. Cameras zoomed. When the people who hurt you have power, telling the truth feels dangerous. But silence, ... It's a slow kind of death. "I didn't speak because I was unafraid. I spoke because I was done being afraid." A pause. Eyes locked on her. "They tried to bury me under shame, under headlines, under noise. But all they did was water the roots of someone they never saw coming. The room exhaled, someone clapped, then another, then it spread, a standing ovation. Rising not just for the words, but for the way she stood there, unshaken, unbought. Backstage. Moments later, Nathan waited in the hallway, not in a suit, in rolled sleeves and quiet eyes. The version of him she was still learning to trust. She stepped into the corridor, breath still half caught in the echo of applause. He looked at her, a small smile tugging at his mouth. "You didn't just hold the room," he said. "You changed it." Amara shrugged, but her lips curved. "Feels different now," she said. To speak and not be edited, Nathan's gaze softened. "I liked your edits better anyway." She looked at him for a moment, then reached out. Not for a kiss, not for anything public. Just a quiet touch to his wrist. "There's still a storm coming," she said. "I know. But I'm not afraid of drowning anymore." Nathan's voice was steady. "Then let me be your anchor, or the one who swims beside you." She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either. Later that night, Amara's apartment, the city lay hushed outside her window. Distant sirens like lullabies she no longer flinched at. Amara stood by the window barefoot, arms crossed over the soft cotton of her sleep shirt, watching taillights. Blur like embers. Nathan moved behind her, quiet in his approach, arms wrapping around her waist like instinct, rested his chin on her shoulder. "You haven't said much since we got back," he murmured. Amara tilted her head slightly toward him, but didn't speak. Instead, she placed her hands over his, intertwining their fingers, anchoring herself there. "It's not the silence," she said. Finally, voice low. "It's what's underneath it." He didn't push. He waited like he always did now. No grand gestures. Just presence. "I used to think once I spoke up, it would be over," she whispered. "Like truth was the finish line. But it's not, is it?" Nathan pressed a kiss to her temple. "No, it's the starting line." She turned in his arms then, looking up at him. Her eyes were wide, not with fear this time, but something braver. Wariness laced with a flicker of peace. She touched the side of his face. "I don't know what comes next," she said. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's okay. Whatever it is, we face it together." Her breath caught, not because of surprise, but because she believed him. She led him to the couch, not to escape, but to pause, to sit in the quiet. She curled against his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath her cheek. "I didn't know people like you existed," she said, voice a thread. "I didn't either," he replied. And they stayed like that, no need for heat or haste, only heartbeats, shared in silence. Not everything needed to be undone in one night. Some things were better rebuilt slowly. Morning light sunlight filtered in through gauzy curtains, casting warm gold across the tangled sheets and the quiet room. Amara stirred first. Her eyes opened slowly, taking in the soft curve of Nathan's arm draped protectively around her waist, the steady rise and fall of his chest behind her. For a moment, she let herself be still, not guarded, not braced, just still. She turned slightly, careful not to wake him. But he was already watching her, eyes half-lidded, sleep rough and soft. "Morning," he murmured. Her lips twitched faintly. "You don't look like someone who barely slept." "I didn't," he said. "I was afraid I'd wake up and find you gone." She blinked, the weight of his honesty hanging between them like a thread. "I'm still here," she said quietly. Nathan reached out, brushing his fingers across her cheek. "I know I don't deserve that." "No," she replied, holding his gaze. "But you're trying, and that means something." They lay in silence for a beat. No rush, no expectations. Just breath and memory and something unfamiliar, but not unwelcome safety. He sat up slowly, the sheet pooling around his waist, and ran a hand through his hair. "I meant what I said last night," he said. "I didn't just come back because I needed to fix what I broke. I came back because I finally understood who I broke when I walked away." Amara's throat tightened. She sat up too, knees drawn to her chest, the blanket wrapped around her, like armor. You hurt me, Nathan, not just the silence, the timing. The way you didn't fight for me when it mattered. I know. His voice was low, gutted with remorse. I told myself I was protecting you, that if I stayed away, you'd be safe from the fallout. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of what I felt. Scared of how much I needed you. Amara turned toward him, something in her gaze cracking, not with anger, but exhaustion. Do you think needing someone makes you weak? I did, he admitted, until I met you. Her breath caught. The silence that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was full of what still needed to be said, full of what already. She reached for his hand. Then prove it, Nathan. Not with words, with time. I will, he said, gripping her fingers tightly, no matter how long it takes. She nodded once, firm. Then stood, wrapped in a robe, hair tousled and eyes tired but unbroken. Amara crossed to the window again. She looked out at the city, not as an exile, but as a woman on the edge of reclaiming everything stolen from her. Behind her, Nathan watched, quiet, reverent, as if witnessing a sunrise. And in many ways he was. Echoes beyond the door knocked soft, but firm. 3 measured taps on the apartment door. Amara turned from the window, her brow tightening. Nathan was already halfway out of bed, the blanket slung low around his waist. A flash of tension rippling across his shoulders. I wasn't expecting anyone, she said, voice low. He nodded, eyes cautious. Stay here. But Amara was already pulling on a soft cream sweater from the nearby armchair. I'm not hiding anymore. Nathan paused at that. The quiet strength in her toned steel wrapped in silk. He gave a single nod, then moved toward the door, every movement alert. When he opened it, just enough to see, his entire expression shifted. Then hardened. Briggs, he muttered. Yo? Have nerves showing up here? Amara moved beside him. Her pulse jumped at the name. Isaac Briggs, Nathan's former handler. Government man with a taste for secrets and plausible deniability. I don't care how you feel about me, Briggs said, voice clipped. I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here because the leak wasn't contained. Nathan's jaw flexed. We neutralized that weeks ago. No, you neutralized a symptom. Briggs interrupted, gaze flicking briefly to Amara. But the root is still alive. And now they know she was the bait. They know about the program. About everything. Amara's skin chilled. Her fingers instinctively curled around the hem of her sweater. You used me? She asked Nathan quietly, pain threading through her voice. His head snapped toward her. Not like that. It wasn't supposed to touch you. I tried to. Briggs cut in again, colder. Trying doesn't erase the crosshairs on her back. Amara stepped forward, eyes sharp. Then say it plainly. Why are you really here? Briggs looked at her, something like reluctant respect flickering behind the calculation in his eyes. Because they won't come after him first, he said. They'll come after you. A long silence, then Nathan, low and controlled, spoke. You should leave. Now Briggs gave a thin smile. Don't say I didn't warn you. He turned, disappearing down the hallway. Nathan closed the door, his hand still gripping the edge like he needed something to hold on to. I'll fix this, he said hoarsely. Amara exhaled. You keep saying that because I mean it. She faced him, her voice firm but not unkind. Then stop making decisions without me. If I'm in danger, I need the truth. All of it, no more shadows, Nathan. He nodded slowly, shame and resolve twining in his eyes. Then let's end this. Together. She stepped closer, their foreheads touching again. This time not in passion but in quiet alliance. No longer just lovers.co-conspirators.2. People with too much to lose, and maybe just enough to fight for.